There's a career move most professionals don't consider during a job search, and it can change everything. Board service. In Wanted, a board career, award-winning executive coach Marlo Lyons shows how professionals can pursue board roles to build credibility, expand influence, and create real career momentum, even without a C-suite title. Whether you're in transition or planning your next chapter, this book offers a smarter, more strategic path forward. Wanted, a board career, is available now. Find the link in the show notes.
Well, if you're in a work situation that is so toxic that you have burnout, you will realize, are you trying to run on a broken leg, or did you just twist your ankle?
Today's conversation is for every high achiever who has ever thought, I'll be happy when I get the promotion, when I make more money, when I leave this toxic job, when I finally prove I'm good enough. And then you get the title, the paycheck, the recognition, and still feel restless, burned out, or completely disconnected from yourself. When you've spent years operating in stress, why does peace feel so uncomfortable? My guest today is executive and life coach Trixi Menhardt, and we're talking about achievement addiction, self-judgment, and toxic work cultures. Trixi brings such a very real perspective on how to recognize the choices we actually have, even when we feel trapped. We talk about manifestos, emotional regulation, positive intelligence, self-love, and how to stop outsourcing your worth to work. If you're successful on paper, but quietly wondering, is this really it? This episode is for you. Let's get unscripted. Trixi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I am happy to have you here because I think that you have so much great advice to tell everybody out there who is just miserable in their jobs today. And so I just want to start off really quickly. Why are so many people living in this mindset of, I'll be happy when I make more money, when I get a new job, when I lose weight, when I get promoted, when I retire? Why do we do that?
Yeah, I think it's because we're hardwired. Our brain hasn't adapted to the times we live in. So we are still functioning in the sense of we need to bring in the harvest. We need to stack the firewood, right? So back in the days, if you sit back and say, I stacked the firewood, well, there's more things to do. So that's probably one of the reasons why we keep pushing. And there's just a short moment of happiness when you have achieved something. And then the next thing pops up, right? It's also people are restless. There's so many ideas and stimulation out there. And think about, we always think that somebody else is perfect and better. And so keep moving in that direction.
That grass is always greener, isn't it? Somebody's always making more money. Somebody's always has the higher title. Somebody has the better job, especially when you see those pop-ups on LinkedIn all day of people getting new jobs, right? Is this an achievement addiction? Are we just addicted to wanting something that we don't have?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because it's this outward stamp of approval, right? So my title, even my net worth, that defines whether I'm a good person or whether I'm a loser.
This can really impact us too. I have lived a lot of my life in that space, right? Of wanting more, wanting things. And then I found what I call this glorious fulfillment. And I call it glorious because I can't even describe it. It's this whole feeling of peace and I guess fulfillment is the best word I can come up with, which is so much different than just being happy. Do you think people understand that can exist out there?
Maybe, if you read a self-help book or watch some inspirational speech, but it's hard to achieve. And what I often find is when people actually get there. So I was just talking with somebody last week, and she said, I just booked this call with you because I'm so strangely at peace with where I am. And it's such a weird feeling.
People aren't used to it.
Yeah, right. There's that silly meme, the anxiety when you realize your anxiety is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't know what to do with it, right? It's almost like
No.
that feels wrong versus the toxic environment and the stress and the anxiety feels right.
Yeah. So we all rationally think that stress is bad for us. But then when we actually achieve these moments of peace, immediately, our reptilian brain comes back and says, no, shouldn't you be doing something else? Shouldn't you be worried? Right?
When this woman came to you and she's saying to you, I'm remarkably at peace, is that common? Like, do you get other clients that come to you and say, I don't know what to do with this? Or are they really in a funk?
I think it's a common experience when you first get to that point. Later on, sounds like for yourself, you are at peace with where you're at. But in the beginning, it is strange. I think it's strange for everyone because it's kind of like a new self.
How do you regain that for those who are in the funk, for those who want to be there and they can't seem to get there? They can't seem to align their life to their values. They live in the toxic world or a toxic environment or a toxic boss or a toxic spouse. What do you say to them, or how do you coach them?
Yeah. Well, there's many layers to that, but at the core of it is learning to self-regulate, learning to not react to the things that you can't control, right? There's a fine line between saying, oh my God, I care, something has happened, versus getting consumed by it. So really learning techniques, and it all comes back to mindfulness on how to self-regulate. So when something bad happens, it's kind of like, oh, it's bad, and I have my hand on the hot stove, right? So it's like that pain signal. But then let go of it and say, oh, I wonder why that stove is hot. Who left it on? That kind of thinking versus getting sucked into it, right? And that's how you start with anything you want to change, whether it's your career, your family situation, it's all intertwined. But being able to get out of that reptilian brain and being curious about what's going on, emotions are symptoms.
It seems so simple. Like it does.
Yes.
But none of us really, I'm going to be the first one to admit, and probably the first time I'm admitting out loud, I didn't actually understand what emotions were and what feelings were. I grew up in a household with two boomer/silent generation parents. And if I cried, they would say, I'll give you something to cry about. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you stopped crying and you stopped figuring out what emotions are. You stopped even understanding your feelings or your emotions. I think the Gen Z generation today is so much more in touch with their emotions and their feelings and what's going on. But if you're stuck in the middle, say in that Gen X, if that millennial, space, and you don't even know what you're feeling, where do you start? Like, how do you figure this out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny when you say you grew up in a household where emotions weren't welcome. I grew up in a household where emotions were overflowing and I couldn't handle it. So, different trigger, but I think I went a similar way. I became this hyper-rational person and where's the data, So
Right.
It doesn't matter how we get there, but recognizing that we had that maybe lack of recognizing our own emotions. Yeah. So, but going back to your question, where do we start? I think it's really understanding that our emotions are not bad. They are actually neutral. They're signals of something that comes at us because often we confuse emotions with, it's my problem. Like I feel bad. I feel embarrassed. I messed up. But in 99% of cases, that thing came at you and then you start owning it. It's really that distancing from the emotion to say, I notice. I notice I have my hand on the hot stove. I notice I'm upset right now. I notice I didn't breathe the last 30 minutes, So those are the first steps to just say, I notice, without judging yourself. And another way to deal with it is to go into your body, right? The body doesn't lie. So even if we don't feel or think about our emotions, they're somewhere stuck in our body.
Yeah, we can feel it definitely before it hits our head, before we even know it, before that rational mind clicks in.
I have this funny memory. I've had a bad hip for most of my life. I remember going to this ski resort, and it was like a long weekend, and I was like, wow, that mattress is amazing. I have to ask them what kind of mattress that is. My hip has been quiet. And then I literally, you drive back from Tahoe and you hit the house and all the ski gear and all the debris is in the driveway. And my hip was like, ping, I'm back.
It does
Right?
tell you. Yeah. I've had back issues as well in the past, not in years, but same thing. I literally would sit there, computer on laptop, computer on my lap as I'm, typing away doing work because I can't stop. Meanwhile, I'm completely laid up in bed and I can't move and I can barely get up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It tells you. So if I'm sitting in the office right now and I think about so many of my clients that are exhausted, they are sitting in toxic environments. They are, and these are high level clients. These are executives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are dealing with not just results, but they're dealing with personalities and judgments and all sorts of things going on. And they say, I can't leave because I'm getting paid a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that one?
Well, that's a common one, right? So there's many layers to that situation. But the first one would be to help them recognize that they have a choice. Because when you say, I can't, that sounds like somebody's holding a gun to your head. But in reality, you're making a choice. So I kind of call that like my manifesto. It says, I choose to work here because I get paid a fortune. And therefore, I tolerate XYZ. And so that's my first step. Like, write that down on a sticky note. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Every time you get up in the morning, look at your manifesto. Or I had a client who put it on the dashboard of his car. Every day he got on his car and said, this is why I'm doing it. And then let's see what happens, right? That's not the end all, but that's sort of the moving from I can to I choose. And is this the right choice for me?
Does that really help change somebody's mindset?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
How does it change?
Because
how does that happen just by saying it's a choice? What if I don't believe it's a choice?
yes, of course, there are people that don't believe it's a choice, but then they wouldn't be working with a coach. So, well, we'll think about it. So if you are in a situation that is really bad, for example, you live in a hot climate, right?
I do.
So if you choose to go outside on a hot day and you feel miserable, then you can say, I choose to go outside because I want to explore what this feels like. And maybe I can enjoy the heat. I can enjoy the prickling on my skin. I can enjoy that I'm so badass that I'm out here. Right? I mean, I live in Florida now, so I do these things because I'm like, I choose to live in Florida versus I have to go outside.
So it's a mind shift. It's definitely a mind shift of saying that everything in your life is a choice. How does somebody really process that though and firmly believe it? Because they might say, well, I'm making a choice to be here, but I kind of have to be here because I've got to pay the mortgage and my kids are in college and I've got to pay for food on the table. So yeah, I mean, I choose to be here because I need a paycheck, but I'm not choosing to be abused or choosing the environment that I'm stuck in. See how that's like that you get a little bit of both going on there?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, again, there's many layers in what you're saying or what your hypothetical client is saying is, yes, we all need to make a living. In America, we all need to have health care. But most people actually make way more money than they need to make. And there is this sense of, I'm the provider. I have to pay for my kids' college. Well, did your parents pay for your college? Probably not. Probably because it was a lot cheaper then too. But these are all ideas that we have kind of like lived with so long. You don't have to do anything. So again, it goes back to your manifesto. You can say, I choose to work in this environment because I want to send my kids to college. I want to give this to my kids. I want to live in a nice house. I want to have all these things. Again, that's a choice. And if all of these things are worth what you're enduring, then you're actually in a good space.
Mm. And I can see how some people might come to the other realization and say, I don't want this. I want to do all these things, but I don't want this environment for that. Like my health, my sanity, my self-worth is worth more than paying for my kids' college or something like that, right? Or whatever it is.
Yeah. And then again, think about it. You have options. I mean, a lot of companies will offer you a break. If you have a mental meltdown, you can take a break, right? A lot of people feel anxious about that. But I think you and I know that most people are well protected if they try to go for leave and just communicate it well. So that's one thing. Just give yourself space or just go on vacation, right? Just take a break. That's step number one.
Yeah, people don't realize just how important that is, like how much a break, a true break matters and can really, burnout is the situation you're in at work. It's not your whole life. It's just work. And when you take that break, you are breaking the cycle of the burnout and you realize, oh, the environment I'm in is not healthy for me necessarily. Yeah. And, I either need to take a longer break or, I need to find a new job or, maybe I just don't compare myself to everybody else out there and what they're, quote, doing and what their, quote, success looks like.
Yeah. And, that brings to mind another conversation I had. It's sometimes not other people. It's your younger self. I had this one client say to me, my younger self is really disappointed in myself.
Oof, that's harsh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So self-judgment comes from many different directions. But again, going back to the burnout, right? I used a metaphor. If you have a broken leg, you won't run on it. But if your house catches fire, you might try to run on it.
Connect those dots for me.
Well, if you're in a work situation that is so toxic that you have burnout, you will realize, are you trying to run on a broken leg or did you just twist your ankle? Again, it's these metaphors that often help people gauge where they're at because there can be so much noise and so much repetitive talk about the situation, right? If somebody comes home or it goes to a party and say, oh yeah, work, it is what it is, right? Most people don't even think about what that means.
No, they don't. They don't think about what it means, but they also don't think about what they want.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I find that people are just lost in knowing what they truly want out of their life.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's another little trick. You probably know that one, is if I don't know what I want, for sure I know what I don't want.
That's fair.
So if you can list the things you don't want and then just flip it. So what's the opposite of that?
And then you can figure out what you truly want and what you deserve. That's the other piece of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think we are so caught up, Trixi, in this comparison state with all the social media. I remember once I took a trip with my kids and I remember somebody wrote to me and said, it was a friend of mine, and wrote to me and said, gosh, you live such a glorious life. I wish I could do that with my children and we can't afford it, but I wish I could. And I thought to myself, wow, that just really hit me. It hit me hard because I'm like, the glorious life you're creating for your children might be completely different than the glorious life that I'm living with my children. Like, why are we comparing? And how do we stop ourselves from falling into that trap?
And again, the glorious life that you're living on social media is not your day-to-day life. We know
Ain't that the truth, right? I'm still doing dishes and pulling laundry.
Yes. Yes.
So how do we step out of that? How do we choose our own lives? Since you said everything's a choice.
So there are some smart statements, like the one that goes like, what other people think of me is none of my business. oh, isn't that cheeky and wonderful? But how
It
do
is
you
cheeky.
actually live that? How
Yeah.
do you actually live that, right? That's a different question. So it goes back to regulating your nervous system. Really think about if you were that perfect person. So one of my mentors said, you want to be as good looking as Cary Grant or Audrey Hepburn. You want to be as accomplished as Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King, right? And then on it goes. And he says, and all of these famous people that we admire, they fall short in all the other categories.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we feel that we have to be these perfect beings.
And we're not perfect by any means.
No.
And
no,
life's not perfect.
No. And if we were perfect, we would be unbearable to be with.
Yeah, because nobody else is perfect around them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But again, I think what you're alluding to is the holy grail of true self-love. And going back to what we started out about, achieving and defining yourselves by the things you have achieved and you're going to achieve. True self-love means that you love yourself right now, or when you're in bed, reading a book and not doing anything productive, or watching Netflix. Can you love yourself in those moments?
When you say love yourself, do you mean your whole self, not pieces of you?
Yeah.
That seems so simple again. It just
Right.
does. It seems very simple. Like, oh, okay, I'll just love myself.
Well, and again, like anything, you can practice it. So, it's very common that people have a practice of gratitude. I have a practice of self-love. When I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, what kind things are you doing for yourself today?
That is huge because I think if you start your day with what am I doing for me and how am I going to take care of myself today and how am I going to take care of my nervous system and how am I going to take care of my body and how am I going to take care of my mind, I think you put yourself center focus, which so many people, especially moms, right? We're the last in the list. What do you do? I know you work with a lot of executives. They have a path, right? I work with executives as well, right? They have a path and they're heading down that path and they're running down the path. And that path is just taking them higher and higher and higher. And then sometimes that path derails, right? They either get laid off or they don't get the promotion or they watch somebody else get promoted into a job that they wanted. How do you help them recover from that? Because those detours are really hard for high achievers that are just running.
Well, the way I specifically handle it is I talk about the gift and opportunity when something bad happens. So there's this, I won't tell you the whole story, but it's the idea of the farmer whose stallion gets stolen. And people think, oh, that's so terrible. He lost his prize-winning stallion. And the farmer just says, who knows what's good? Who knows what's bad? Right? And there's these iterations and iterations. And the whole story ends up in the farmer's son jumping on one of the horses and breaking his leg. And again, the village people are like, oh, this is so terrible. Who's going to plow the field for you? And the farmer says, who knows? And next thing, a war breaks out. And his son is saved because he cannot be drafted. So my clients know this story. And so if you come to me and say, I got laid off, my reply to that is, oh, your stallion got stolen.
Who knows what is good or what is bad? It's the judgment that we're putting on it, right?
Yeah. And I worked with a client. She just landed a new job, but like 6-7 months ago, she was laid off. And it was the first time in her life. She's in her late 50s. And again, my reaction is, wow, congratulations. It's the first time it happened to you. And so what are you going to do? Your stallion got stolen. And so if you understand that, it immediately pulls you into the, oh, I don't know what this means. Why do I go to the automatic thought that this is terrible, that this is horrible?
Yeah, we all do that though. I think we do.
Yeah.
I think all of us immediately go to, why is this happening to me? I've trained my brain. It's taken years, but I have trained my brain immediately to go to, what can I learn from this? But that
Yes.
took me years to get there because I was always like, woe was me. And not always, but, I would be like, oh gosh, why is everything so hard? Or why is this happening? Or, and eventually I got to the point of anything that happens to me. I'm like, what am I learning from this? What am I learning from this? There's something to learn from this because there's learning in everything.
Yes.
So I know you teach, or not teach, but you coach using a method called positive intelligence. Can you explain that a little bit? Like, what is that about in simple terms?
Well, at the core of it is the idea of the inner judge. And there's other people that talk about that and have developed tools around it. So I work with Positive Intelligence, the company that was founded by Trixi Tschiedel, who was the CEO of one of the big coaching schools. And then he went into starting the PQ business. So it's an app. That's really nice. People can go through this program self-guided. We're not using our one-on-one time to talk about these ideas like the stallion got stolen, a hand on the hot stove, what's the gift and opportunity, are you an achiever or are you a hyperachiever? There's a lot of background there and a lot of research. And I think that resonates with hyper-rational clients. There's data. But it also takes you through daily exercises, which are like mini meditation breaks. And you do them 3-4 times a day, 2 minutes. And again, if somebody says, I don't have time, I said, well, if you can't make 8 minutes a day, then maybe change is not in the cards for you. So it's a really nice system to allow people to self-study while they work with me one-on-one what their real issue is, right? So the real issue might be, I'm in a toxic work situation. I feel stressed out. I know I can retire, but I'm emotionally not ready. Whatever the presenting issue is. So we work on that. We don't let that sit, but we work on that while positive intelligence helps you to understand where your emotions come from. It helps you to start to regulate them. And I always try out these things on myself. So I started that program about 4 or 5 years ago. And I was in the initial program with a cohort of other coaches. And I had PTSD from an accident. And whenever I found myself in those circumstances, I just checked out, like no rational thought. And my friends knew about it. So they were very accommodating, but still, it was kind of like weird. So I was like 4 or 5 weeks into the program, doing my daily repetitions, going to the mental fitness gym, really starting to understand how this all connects. And I found myself in the same situation. I was with a good friend. We're on top of a trailhead and was this single track spiraling down. And she looked at me and she said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let's turn around. I'm so sorry I brought you to this spot. And I said, no, let's do it. And I just focused on my breath, on the surroundings, touching my hands, touching my hair, just all these little exercises that I'd learned. I did them for like the 10 minutes we went downhill. And at the bottom, I literally looked up and thought, what was that ever about?
It's powerful. Yeah. How do you help others get to that space where they can own their life, their choices, their career?
Well, I really believe in this app. I believe in the way we work with positive intelligence, with the mini meditations, the mental fitness repetitions. It's like going to the gym. You don't start lifting huge weights. You start small and you get stronger and stronger. So sometimes people will come to me and say, oh my God, I got hijacked again. I still can't control it. And I'm like, well, must have been a bigger weight. Right? So if people start to understand these metaphors of this is the mental weight you're trying to push, but you can only push this much. It's okay that you can't do this yet.
Do you think that when they don't deal with what they're dealing with, when they don't process it in these ways, when they don't look at things from, I don't want to say positive, like from a positive way, but like when they're not able to look at a different perspective on their life, they think like the new job is going to solve the problem. It's not.
No.
Right? Or the new spouse or the new house or the new car or the new whatever. Like the same patterns follow,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah. 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 For sure. I mean, that's one thing I will always advocate for is that you don't take your old self into a new situation. As you said, what can I learn from my failures? What can I learn from my mishaps? So really analyze what happened in that job, what happened in the previous job, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. In psychology, there is the red, yellow, and green warning flag. What were those? Can you see them now?
And what do you do with those once you realize things are red or things are yellow or even green?
In most cases, I think people learn that they didn't listen to their intuition. They knew something was wrong, but they didn't want to hear it. Right?
Mm.
As you know, I left my marriage of 30 years.
Mm.
I was completely numb to my intuition.
Wow. So it was there the whole time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now it's like clear as daylight. But I didn't want to see it. And it was actually my son who one day he said, I don't know, you're not seeing it. I'm like, what am I not seeing it? I will never forget when he said that.
It's that whole hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah. But again, apply that to a job, right?
Mm.
In hindsight, you can see what happened. So, for example, I'm still working with a client. When she came to me, she was crying in every session.
Wow.
She was just so depleted. And then, I don't know, it was 4 or 5 weeks into our work. All of a sudden she flipped. And I said, what happened? She said, I realize it's not me. It's them. I'm not feeling. They are making me feel.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Yeah.
I've seen that too often, right? I worked in HR and I saw too often really, really high performers being stuck under a bad boss who didn't communicate well. And those high performers wound up at better jobs, doing bigger things, but I don't want to say their ego, but their whole being took a hit from that because it's that self-judging piece
Yeah.
where we believe what
And
other people believe about us.
I know. And our boss, whether we want it or not, they have authority over us.
Mm-hmm.
We crave their love and recognition.
Yeah.
And I remember recently working with somebody who had a horrible boss. And while the situation was going on, she was very clear. She kind of worked around her. She lobbied to be moved on, blah, blah, blah. Well, eventually what happened was the person was let go. And you know what? My client went to survivor's guilt. She's like, oh, they shouldn't have let her go. She wasn't such a bad person.
Wow. It's like that. What is that when you're like a hostage and you
the
like
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome, right?
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. We always remember the good, right?
I know. Yeah. So, I mean, that shows you how deep that need for recognition and acceptance is. And even if a person can't give it to you, you still feel sorry for them.
Yeah. If somebody's listening right now and they feel stuck in their toxic job or they're constantly self-judging themselves, or maybe they don't even know they're self-judging themselves, but they are, or if they're waiting for their life to, quote, start, they're looking for what the next thing is that's going to make them happy. What is a step that maybe they could take this week that would allow them to just take that first step forward into like awareness?
I would say it goes back to what I call the manifesto. Really take inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Move from the I can't, I'm stuck to I choose to be here because.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. And the other question is, what assumption am I making here? Often people make assumptions that they have no alternatives. I mean, you and I know the job market is terrible. There's so much volatility in the world and the whole AI thing, right? So people feel caged in right now. And then they see everything through that lens. So again, it's like, what assumption am I making? So when somebody comes to me and say, well, I know I hate this job, but I wouldn't find another job. The job market is terrible. I'm saying, well, how do you know that? There are still jobs out there and one person will get that job. And why wouldn't that be you? right? So those are kind of like these circles of assumptions that we need to peel away to say, there are still jobs out there. You just got to be more resilient, and you got to show up better than the other person. It's like we just finished, watching Olympics. There's always a gold medal.
Yeah, there is. And you have to show up for yourself. I think that's the biggest key is, if you really want something different, you have to show up for you and, decide that, make a different choice. Make a different choice, basically. You might not be able to leave the job right away because you need the income or whatever, but make a different choice. If you're not looking for jobs, if you're not networking, if you're not talking to people, if you're not putting out there to the universe of what you actually want, then the universe can't respond.
I know. I mean, that's such another big deal. That's like, I don't like to sell myself.
Yeah. That is a whole big one. Yep. Guess what? Life is about selling yourself.
Right. If you're not telling me you're available, how can I choose you?
Exactly. I think people also have to really, don't you think they also have to look at success too? Like, what does success mean to them? Because for me, a long time, Trixi, success was about money. It was about being able to do the things I want to do. It was about financial freedom. And I have completely flipped everything, what I think about success. And I had to unlearn that for me, success really means impact, right? And I feel good and I'm on a high when I've had a great coaching session with someone. I'm like, wow, I can do this. I'm good at this. And this feels great because they had a breakthrough. Like that is success for me now. It doesn't mean that I don't need to make money, but it's a whole different feel when that is my metric.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever had to unlearn a belief about yourself?
Yeah, very much the same. Very much the same. That paycheck and a bonus check and a promotion. Again, it goes back to that is a short moment of happiness. But when I think about all the people's lives I've touched, and not just their lives, but everyone in their orbit, think about that. Yeah.
It's a big deal. So I am going to encourage people to, take this moment, create your manifesto, right? Figure out what you're doing and why you're doing it, and the choices that you're making in life, because those choices add up and they will definitely help you figure out figure out how to find the fulfillment that I describe, find that happiness that is fleeting, but you'll find it long-term, which is the fulfillment. Trixi, thank you for being here, helping people rethink how they think about their lives and their work lives.
Thank you for inviting me, Marlo.
Where can people find you?
So LinkedIn. My company name is Red Pants Coaching, but I don't have a website anymore. But you'll find me under my name, Trixi Menhardt, or Trixi Tschiedel Menhardt, which is my maiden name. And I also have a lot of stuff on Instagram, and it's Trixi.Q3 in life.
Oh, I love that. Q3 in life. Do tell, what does that stand for?
It's the third quarter.
I love it.
It's what you do.
Of life.
It's what you do before you retire. It's the third quarter.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Marlo.
What I hope you take from this conversation is that you have more choice than you think. It doesn't mean leaving a toxic workplace is simple. I get that. And it definitely doesn't mean you should pretend everything is fine. But it does mean you can pause and ask, what am I choosing right now? And why? So if this episode hits something in you, don't just move on to the next thing. Sit with it. Ask yourself, what success actually means to you now? And if someone in your life is chasing the next achievement but still feels exhausted or unfulfilled, send them this episode. As always, thank you for being here. Stay curious, stay grounded, and stay unscripted. The journey is yours. Work Unscripted is produced and edited in partnership with the team at Palm Tree Podco and 21 Digby. The content for this week's episode was created by me, Marlo Lyons.